Ladies and gentlemen, we're back on TV. We're back being taped right now. So I'm going to go over the agenda for tonight. The Carmel Water 2 informational meeting. The agenda, the purpose of this informational meeting is to develop a better understanding of the needs of the residents of our biggest water district. That's Carmel Water District number 2. The current status of our activities: number 1, water main replacement is ongoing in the Glenida Ridge, Glenview 301 area. We have collected coupons for Collier and Lindy Tower Road. Coupons is a section of the pipe that's cut out by a contractor so we can get a look at the inside of the main. We have repair coupons from Everett and Houston Road areas. Number 4, water plant replacement RFP is out. Responses are due by May 25th, 2018. Expect to review and award by the end of June. We'll take resident input at the end, at the conclusion of the agenda.
For the facility
We'd like to
study.
hear input from the residents in other areas of the district about the quality of their water and how long it
Water
has been that
plant
way,
replacement.
so that we can focus
Should say
the
facility
remainder
study.
of our investigation accurately.
Correct that.
So we have with us tonight our engineer, Rich Franzetti, over here. And in the back, we have John Falchetti. He's the town's consulting engineer. And Mary Ann Maxwell, our town controller, is going to be part of this also. And Mike Simone, our highway superintendent. So why don't we do this? I'm going to have the panel, Rich, John, Mike, Mary Ann, why don't you come up here? You can take our seats up here because you're going to be facing the public and you're going to be
I get to leave. Careful.
Can I just state,
Here's screeching rubber.
everyone, can I just state 2 things? One, ground rule. It's an informal meeting, but at the same time, we are televising it. The room is big. We don't have mics that project in the room. So let's keep, the conversation one way, as opposed to a lot of noise out in the audience. If you have a question, please come up to the mic, because that's mainly the only way you're going to get televised, if you come up to the mic. The second thing is item number 4. It says that the water plant replacement RFP is out. I need to clarify that. The water plant replacement RFP is not out. The facility study to replace the water plant is out. Big difference. The RFP to build a new plant is not out. The study to do it.
The RFP for the study of the plant and the proposed replacements is what's out and back at the end of May. The study, yes. And then you'll award the study to somebody and they'll do it.
All right, okay. John, Rich, Mike, wait. Rich.
And if you have a question to the board, we can come back and discuss that also.
Rich, why don't you sit here? John? Mary Ann? Right there? Yeah, right there. Mike?
Okay, so Supervisor Smith ran down the agenda already. So there's a list of folks who asked that they wanted to speak. I have Louis Margulies. Lou Margolis, I apologize. I know, come on up if you have questions.
Oh, wait a minute. I thought you were going to speak about the items and then open it up to the public.
You did. You spoke about it. So
You want to?
give them that.
You want to give some details, though? Some details about the items, or no? Or where we're at with the replacement?
We're currently the replacement actual pipe installation started on April the 3rd. We started at the low end of Glenida Ridge near Belden Road. We are currently about halfway over Glenview, over in the neighborhood of 52 or 56 Glenview Road at this stage of the game. We'll continue on Glenview till we get down to 301, and we'll come back and pick up the north side of Glenida Ridge and work that towards 301.
Yeah.
It's not amplified.
It's not amplified.
It's only going into.
Sorry, I thought I was talking in the mic. So, where did you lose me?
Keep talking in the mic.
They need it for the program. But
April 3rd. We started laying pipe on the 3rd of April on the low end of Glenida Ridge down near Belden Road. We are currently about, past the intersection, about halfway from the Glenida Glenview intersection, along Glenview towards Route 301. Next step will be at 301, probably middle of next week. I expect that house service connections will commence on the low end of Glenida Ridge starting on Monday. We should have that crew on hand Monday. We got health department approval to install all of those service connections from the low end of from the low end of Glenida Ridge to Glenview Drive. Our next pressure test for the next segment of pipe on Glenview will occur tomorrow. Then there'll be another round of disinfection tests for that next run of pipe. So it'll be just progressive, lay water main, test it, get it disinfected, then come back and install services. Once we reach 301 on Glenview, we'll backtrack, pick up the intersection at Glenview and Glenida Ridge and finish Glenida Ridge. And that's where we're at.
Yeah, there's only one thing I know. I've got. Oh, sorry.
Come over to the mic.
All right, first off, my name is Lou Margolis, kind of a town resident for all my life. Before I get into anything else, I have you realize I did run the water district for upwards of 15 years, from 71 to 86. But I'm kind of glad to hear that you are definitely going to finish the rest of Glenida Ridge, because I have to talk to the contractor, and he said there was something about that there might have been a snafu to happen, but I'm kind of glad that they see it's going to go on. I will continue after you finish.
Okay. That's all I've got to say, but you want me to carry on the coupons? When we started investigating this late last year, end of summer, beginning of the fall, we had identified that potentially, rather than replacing pipe, we would do a cement lining project. Nominally less intrusive as opposed to digging ditches in the roads. We dig access points, then remount the pipe, line the pipe with cement, close up the access points, and all of the services stay in place. That didn't happen in Glenida Ridge, but part of the process was to investigate the pipe. When Kenny was talking earlier about coupons, when you see the pipe all badly tuberculated on the inside, that's a chemical reaction that happens between the minerals in the water and the iron on the inside of the pipe if you don't have a lined pipe. We can show you pictures. You can call me at the office. You can come over and look at the segments of pipe if you like. The bottom line is, though, that there's never a certainty that that chemical reaction is simply happening from the inside of the pipe wall and growing in, or is it growing through the pipe wall? So the purpose of the coupons was to cut it, remove that, and then investigate the thickness of the pipe wall to make sure that it would withstand the reaming process that would remove all of that tuberculation before we went and lined it. We wanted to be sure we had a pressure rated pipe still in place subsequent to the reaming process. Those coupons were taken, as Kenny said, on Glenida Ridge, Glenview, Lindy, Tower, and over on Collier. We thought we were going to do 10 within those streets that I just named. The valving arrangements that we currently have, and Lou will attest to this, is not quite adequate to be able to shut all of those roads down and remove that many 6-foot-long segments of pipe. So we didn't, because I didn't want to shut down the entire district for a couple of pipe segments. Consequently, we've got 7 left to distribute across the balance of the district, which is in part why this meeting is occurring tonight, to find out where water is bad. It's been bad for a while, and then we can target those areas to go cut segments of pipe out, take the coupon, evaluate the pipe, and determine whether the project is another replacement project or a pipe lining project. That's the coupons. What else?
The only other thing we can talk about is that the RFP for, as Councilman Lupinacci corrected, for the water treatment facility upgrade for an engineering report for the water treatment plant. So that's where we're at right now. The water treatment plant we have there is past its life expectancy on the grand scheme of things. There's a diatomaceous earth plant, and we're looking to see what it was gonna take to replace said plant. The water is still good, so in case anybody's concerned about that, it's not that the water is bad, it's just that we need to get to a more efficient system, a better system to operate within the town. So we forwarded the RFP to about 12 engineering firms that are, based on the engineering news report, are the top 15, or we did the top 15, but 12 of them is what we sent it to. Engineering companies, design firms that do water treatment, and that will relatively local, White Plains, Middletown, Poughkeepsie type areas, so that we had a local presence, so we're not grabbing some firm out in California who doesn't know anything about New York. So that covers, I believe, the agenda items. The gentleman who just came in to my right is Mr. Tom Brand. He is with Infomark, what used to be known as STES. So you folks may have called STES over the years. Now Infomark. Tom Brand is the person who is the lead contact for Infomark for the town of Carmel. So he's here to help us in case we have any questions also. You're up again, Mr.
Oh, boy.
Well, you were number one on the list, so you can come back if you'd like. And
No.
go from there. You know, there are other folks, they'll speak, I'm sure.
All right. I know last time I should have probably got and spoke, but I was not really in too much of a health to be able to do it. But running the district for 15 years, over 30 years ago, some of the things that they're talking about was there then. And I'm glad to see the town has finally taken the bull by the horns. I know it's going to cost us a lot of money up here to do it. It's a shame that it couldn't have been spread out and been done over a period of time, number one. But when you take what Mr. Fischetti was talking about, the coupons out, I can remember running the water district, you take the old 1936 line that starts up at the water tower on top of Seminary Hill, which is up there by Hilltop Manor, runs basically right on down through the middle of town to the cemetery, goes out Fair Street to roughly 86, goes out 301 to approximately where West Branch and Glenida meet. And when you take, you have put in a mainline valve. To do this, you take out a piece of pipe that's about this big around. You took this old 1936 line, and now mind you, I agree, it's 30-odd years ago, you'd look at it. And really, you looked at it, and really it was dirt, just a little brownish or dirt, but really the pipe was in good shape. You got up in these other areas like you were talking about, even one is Lindy Drive, which they have an issue up there. The other areas, I know Everett Road, within my time of running the place, I put at least 15 repair clamps on there, and really it's from the second piece of property going up Everett Road, from there up was where they had this problem where the pipe kept on breaking on a regular basis. And you could have snow this deep, and we were out there. So this is things that should have been looked at years ago, and I'm finally glad, but I wish we could somehow spread it out to keep the cost within a reasonable amount, but that's another issue. But you took pieces out of there, and what he was talking about, that barnacles, I call them, the rust pieces, you could see are already forming in it because of the cast iron. It was a cast iron pipe, not a cast iron cement line pipe. So I believe that, and really, when I think the 1936 line should be held off as long as possible because of where it is, number one. It's right through the middle of town, which would tie up the town from here to Kingdom Come. And number two is it probably is still in pretty good shape. The water towers themselves, there's 3 of them. The one up on top of Seminary Hill, which is roughly a 300,000 gallon tank, was redone when I was working for the district. All 3 of them were painted at that time, which really, I'm looking over 30 years, should probably be repainted again. All right, now let's get into the water plant. Well, when I started, and this is another issue that I've been kind of involved in too. When I started down there, the water plant had 2 pumps at the end of Willow Road, where just before going into the spur. We would be moving, when I first started in '71, we'd be moving approximately about 300,000 gallons of water a day out of there. On the high side, it was closer to 4. As time went on, as things happened, the town grew. So what they did do is put a 3rd pump in outside. This pushed it up to a little over 500,000. Well, back in, I think it was somewhere in the early 80s, late 70s, when they built the new diatomaceous earth system. When they started that, and I'm going by memory, so you can think about it, my hair isn't there, so I lose it. We were pushing out anywhere between about 600,000 a day, to where today, when I was reading the paper that we got from the water district, on the low side, there's almost 850,000, roughly. Now, the other thing I was told when I was working there, and Kenny knows about it, the safe yield out of that lake at that point was 500,000 gallons of water a day. At that point also, with pulling that 500,000, it was outflowing. The natural feed is going from Glenida to West Branch, not the reverse that's happening right now, to help feed back to Glenida. So I think within my own mind, and I like the idea, I hate the idea we have to pay New York City, but that's the way it goes. We live in their territory. To put a new pump house as a supplement to this pump house down there past Vista on the lake. Once that one's built, maybe look into the fact of revamping this one so you have the 2 of them working together. That's one way I've heard. Another way I heard, and frankly, I don't know whether the city would go for this, we take them, run a pipe over by the dam over at Belden Road, run it up over the hill, and all we do is pump water from there directly. Get an agreement with the city. We don't pay for that. We pay for the movement of the water, but don't pay for the water we move over. The time we pay for it is when we use it. By getting more water into the lake, we could maybe raise the water level up to where it should be, and Charlie knows this better than I do, where it used to overflow into West Branch, and actually indirectly would help Glenida in a way and flush it out and keep it clean. Now, back, I can remember diving in there over the old screens at this time when I was down there just to go down and clean them. And yeah, I had my diver thing on, and we had I think it was Belfry from the police department. I went down with them to just to clean off the old screens at the end of Willow Road. Now, this is how clear the water was. I was down at 36 feet, where from here down it was cold, and I was standing on top of the screens. From here up it was warm. The only trouble is the next thing I could see, within 36 feet, I could have been seeing that wall just as clear as it stands right now. I don't believe we can do that now because of the changing, actually the lake is changing due to the fact it hasn't had a chance to clean out. And you all should realize that lake only gets fed one way and one way only, the springs. It is not brought in, and very little of, yes, there's a big basin around it, but there's no major contributory, just springs that feed it. And you go back to when it was before they built West Branch, and I got talking with Charlie Cole about this. His family, relatives of his family, had mills on the stream that flowed out of Glenida going in towards West Branch, which isn't there now. Just to have you realize, for water to be backflown from West Branch into Glenida, first off, the gates have to be out. Second off, the dam at Belden Road, and I know people go by elevations, engineers love it, I don't. I go by what I see. The dam down there is within 6 inches of breaking the top of the dam for that water to backflow into Glenida. Also, once in a while you look at West Branch, because I go by it every day because I live out that way. You look at the shore on West Branch, and there's a sluiceway there. You can't, right now, if you keep the water up where those rocks have gone out of the sluiceway, it's flowing back. Certain times they even bring it up a little bit higher where the land around it is full of water. I know then it's really going back, but that's the only way, and thank you to New York City, in a way, that they're willing to do that for us. Otherwise, Glen Ida would be down, not the 3 feet that it would drop, it would probably be down a good 5 feet. But also, there's one more interesting fact that I thought about. Yet the 1936 line compared to the rest of the district. Within those 15 years that I worked there, my first job was, when I first was hired in '71, was down here on Fowler Avenue on the 1936 line. What it wasn't a break. It was a corporation was leaking, which is the corporation, which is actually, for people who don't understand, is how you get water from the main to your house. It's a fixture that's put into the main. That was leaking. The second one I can remember of was approximately in front of George's, where one of the bells leaked. Of course, they had an old leadite bell, which is oakum and leadite put in, and that started leaking. Now, since 1936 to 1970-something, that's a long stretch. The third one happened, and unfortunately it was in a nice, beautiful weather. It was down here on Fair Street on the S-turn. That was the only pipe of that whole section that I know of broke. And the reason this broke, it was sitting on ledge, and the vibration got it. So I applaud the town for thinking about it, trying to go ahead. I also hope that they also turn around and go somehow to try to keep the cost down as much as possible and maybe spread it out over a period of longer time. And once this is done, don't stop. Start thinking ahead further down the road than the last 5 years. But I thank you, and I hope I didn't bore everybody.
No, not at all.
Thank you very much.
Very educational. Thanks, Rich. Thank you.
Do we have his contact information? We need to get it.
Okay,
He's gonna do
So,
the next one.
Frank Chianca?
Yeah,
Yeah, hi, Frank Chianca, I live on St. Michael's Terrace. I'm also president of Hamlet Carmel Civic Association, and on their behalf, I would like to thank the town board for hosting this tonight at our request. Thank you, Susie, for the communication back and forth, and for bringing the experts here. I think we had plenty of technical discussion, so I'm going to go into a little broader aspect here. Based on what your agenda items are, the first phase of this, the repair up at Glen Ida, has already been bonded, and there's money set aside for that, correct?
correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Well,
Now-
it hasn't been bonded yet. It will be
Okay.
bonded once the project is done.
Okay, but that's been approved. That
It's
part has been approved.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, these other coupons, as you call them, that you're collecting at Collier and Lindy and Everett, that would be for repairs going forward? That would not be included in that bond, or am I mistaken?
Those other coupons were collected, so we have some from the district. We have them from where we're working on Glen Ida Ridge now. We took some off Collier and Lindy and Tower.
Okay,
Okay, and then there's been a couple of repair ones, one off of 301 and one off of Everett, where we have, the service was interrupted anyhow, so we took those coupons at that time. So what's being constructed now is Glen Ida Ridge Road and Glenview, okay, and 301, to connect that back towards, from that area back along 301 towards the courthouse. Collier Drive is not in this, Lindy is not in this, and part of this informational quest at this stage of the game is where else, rather than me looking at a map and going, okay, or getting Lou out and saying, where should we cut these things? If people have bad water, then we'd like to know that, and then we can go over there and cut a coupon and have a look at that.
okay, so I guess my question is, once you determine where the bad areas are, any repairs going forward would have to be a whole different plan and a whole different financing.
Right.
Correct.
So the conclusion of the entire coupon collection thing, the assessment of the district would then be the development of a report to the board for action, identifying substandard areas, identifying areas that are okay, and then with a recommendation for some of these should be lined, all of them should be lined, some should be replaced, all of them should be replaced, or some combination thereof. So then the board would have a report that it could act on in order to, first and foremost, decide what to do, when to do it, and how to bond it.
Okay. Broad guesstimate on when such a report we would be looking at? Would that be months, years? I mean, how long does something like that take?
Depending on what the authorization is coming, we're not going to have an authorization tonight. Depending on the results of this evening's meeting, we would then consult with the board, move forward on a coupon collection probably in the next, 30, 60 days. And I would expect then on that information to be able to have a report sometime in the fall, assuming that we go ahead this month or next.
Okay, so then, once you have that report, the board can consider a long-range plan of what's required, come up with some kind of estimates of cost, have your public hearings. So are we talking, maybe by the end of the year that this would be, or by next spring? I couldn't hold you to any of this, obviously, just trying to get an idea of what we're talking about.
Yes, Frank, it depends on how long the analysis takes of the system. It depends on the extent of it, how deeply
much
in
it's
depth
gonna
it's going to be.
Right.
Right. I mean, we might be able to give you, a snapshot of what we feel it looks like and what needs to be done. But as they examine the coupons and do the analysis of the system, we'll have a better understanding then. Towards the end of the year, John, it depends on the extent of what we're going to be looking at, right? And your analysis?
Right. We can cut a coupon a day, right? So all we need is the remaining 7, because only 7 neighborhoods need more coupons cut out of, we'll be done in a month. If we need 30 of them, then there's more time required for collection and repair of those systems. But at the conclusion of the coupon collection, I would expect that in 60 or 90 days, we can develop a report and a cost estimate to move forward.
And then Mary Ann, once John gives the board his report, what is it moving forward financially wise, like the timeline? Maybe Mary Ann and Greg can speak about that.
Yeah, well, once we get a cost estimate, like similar to the cost of the Glen Ida Ridge, then we would get a bond resolution approved for that project, and then we wouldn't bond that out until that project is done. So you would issue a ban initially, and then we pay interest on the ban, and then once once the project is complete, then you would bond it out for 15, 20, 30 years, depending on the cost of the project. And what we could do is, we could float a ban, and then bond the whole project out together, including Glen Ida and Collier and whatever projects, come forward.
Schedule dependent.
It's just, if with the interest rate still being relatively low, we may want to bond out what is done first, and then, look at what's ahead, especially with the
Okay.
plant and things
Fair
like that.
enough.
So Frank, it really, if I could just add to your first part of your question, it really depends on how many areas,
Require work.
right,
Yeah,
how many
I
complaints, where are
understand.
we getting the complaints, where are they located? So it really depends as far as getting an answer by the end of the year. If we can address those areas of concern where the complaints are coming from, if they're minimal or limited, then yes, we'll have answers. But if they're extensive, if there's many that we have to do, then that's going to take a little bit longer.
Okay.
All right?
The other question that's come up with the work that you're doing now up at Glen Ida Ridge and this work going forward, how does it affect, I don't know if Mike is still here, how does it affect our roads? all of this work is, oh, here it is. Is all of this work going to be a patch quilt of repairs on every single street that's worked on? Are the roads eventually just going to be paved over nice and smoothly? I mean, that question was asked of me, and I bring it to you guys. So, can you address
Again,
it?
I've been in part of this discussion and finding out exactly. We don't have an idea of how many miles of road we're looking at. I am totally aware of the Glenida Ridge project. I will be anticipating going in that road on the Glenview side. We've never done drainage. I will be doing drainage up that side. That's old drainage, but I would be replacing that drainage after the road work is complete. And then at that time, I would be paving Glenida Ridge and Glenview in total.
Great, okay, terrific. Okay, the last item that's come up at many of our Hamlet meetings is the demand for water in this district. I think Lou alluded to it, that, you know, we're drawing a heck of a lot more water out of Lake Glenida than we ever did. And with continued development in this district, there's more demands for water. I mean, as part of, maybe not this specific study, but as part of a long-range plan going forward, maybe you could consider an alternate water source for the district besides Lake Oneida. Some people mention drilling wells down by the hospital and let that end of the district have their own water supply. I guess I'm just reiterating Lou's concern that we're taking more water out of Lake Oneida than we're putting back in, and eventually it's going to be a problem. So I don't know if that is relative to this study, but it might be something you want to consider at the same time.
Frank, the plant study for the plant is going to consider demand.
Okay.
Absolutely. Is going to consider demand. Because then, you know, and not just current demand, future demand as well. You know, when we analyze the flow and the amount of water usage.
Oh, demand, yes.
That's important when you're going to be constructing a new plant.
Okay. Well, thank you all very much.
Thank you. Mr. Alvaro, you're next on the hit list.
You pretty much covered most of the stuff I'd be interested in. I was really here to just listen. You know, the main thing I was concerned about is the water tower should be part of this study. It's a big part of the water plant. Also, an alternate water source, which it may not be possible, but it should definitely be looked at. Possibly if we had a second filtration plant, you could have a more even flow with the chlorine in the water. You know, residents that are closer to the plant right now get that initial hit so that you have the right amount of chlorine at the end of the line. So perhaps those things will be, with the new plants, they would address those kind of issues.
Part of the analysis that we're asking the water consultant, for lack of a better term, to do is going to be to assess an entire range of disinfection alternatives, so that we're not, today we have chlorine. We've had chlorine all along, and the shortcomings of a chlorination system near to the plant as opposed to the far-flung fringes of the district are widely known, and they're common districts across the state. But there are other alternatives. Ultraviolet light is a disinfection alternative. Sorry. So no, thanks, Lou. I tend to mutter. So part of the analysis that we're asking our water consultant to do is going to be to assess alternative methods of disinfection aside from the use of chlorine. So just rest assured that we'll evaluate that, because the recognition of not only the near locale impact of the chlorine content coming out of the plant as opposed to the distant impact, but also the disinfection byproducts from the residence time, the chlorine in the water, et cetera. We're looking at we will evaluate other alternatives, and they'll be in that report.
Great. So that's what this RFP is for, recommendations of what we can do, right? It's not actually design or anything like that.
No, it's not the actual design.
Okay.
So our process in the state of New York is dictated for water and wastewater is dictated by what's known as the 10 state standards. And there's the 10 states that border the Great Lakes and a couple of Canadian provinces have developed a set of regulations, health-based regulations, and that forms the basis for the investigation, the raw water quality analysis, the treatment analyses, the various treatment processes, et cetera. And the request for proposal that is out is based on every one of those steps in the 10 state standards that are applicable to our condition. We're not going to assess groundwater sources because we don't have a groundwater source. We're going to assess surface water supplies, okay, in accordance with the 10 state standards, and that's what's going to come out of that report.
Okay. And then I'm sure we're looking for grant opportunities, right, and funding. Consolidated funding's coming out soon. Make sure we're in there because there is a lot of money out there for different things that are related to this. Thank you.
We'll be in the CFA.
Yeah, we get in it every year,
Every year.
and we
Yeah.
don't.
We haven't had it.
Yeah, I mean, we keep on trying,
We
you
try.
know.
We have to try.
You can't win it if you're not in it, right?
Yeah.
Mr. Belasky? Palacio, sorry, I didn't see the O there.
You can come on up to the mic. What, you have to come to the mic because the audience cannot hear you. The people,
No, the TV.
it's a TV mic.
Can't hear you if you're not on the mic.
Yes, you have to,
Well-
you're the one that wanted it on TV. Are you kidding me? Right. Right, but the problem is, at home, they will not be able to hear you from there. Can we put the mic,
No, ask the question and we'll repeat it here.
yeah, can we just move this over to him and he doesn't have to be on it?
They're gonna repeat it.
Susan.
They're gonna repeat it.
Just say it.
All right, so Don, could you just point the camera? Kenny likes to be on TV.
Point it
so
over.
point it on
Point it
camera.
over to Kenny. All right, it's turned.
Very end.
Yeah, 'cause now he'll be able to hear you. Oh.
I'd like to ask a question. My question is, why am I paying a water bill? I get a water bill every 2 months. Why do I pay a water bill?
Every 2 months?
That's you.
Yeah, every 2 months or whatever.
6 months, yeah. That's the
6 months?
consumption.
Oh, yeah,
It's the
my
one that
mistake,
runs through your meter.
my mistake. Why do I pay a water bill?
It's your usage.
Using water.
It's your usage,
Consumption.
the water that you're consuming.
Okay?
Consumption,
And who delivers that water to me?
because it's through the pipes.
Our systems do.
Who owns the pipe?
Town of Carmel District.
The town of Carmel. So why are you,
The distribution system delivers.
so why are we paying to repair these pipes?
Why?
Yeah.
Because somebody said it. You own the system.
Very good.
You own the water.
Very, very good. I live at the retreat at Carmel. All our pipes are new. Water, sewer, gas, electric, whatever. All our utilities are brand new. When I bought that home, the utilities were factored into the price of the home. Now you need to repair a pipe, and you're coming to me for money. Not me, everyone at that retreat. We maintain our own roads. We maintain ourselves. So when it was time for us to buy these pipes that were put under the ground, was factored into the price of the home. Nobody helped us. So I don't understand why we're being involved in this.
The water.
Wait a minute, can I say?
Oh,
Yeah, they can't hear from
well, why don't you help me then?
Wait,
No,
wait,
sir, this way.
Well, whoever said
This
that, I
way.
should put my, well, why don't you give me
No,
some
sir,
money and we'll put our
sir.
own wells?
Sir, you're a ratepayer within the district boundaries. You are a ratepayer in Carmel Water 2 district. So that's why you share the cost of the water system, because you're a ratepayer.
I'm a ratepayer.
There's rates that you pay for water usage. And for the treatment of the water has to be treated in a water treatment plant, and then there's a distribution system to get the water to you. So, and those pipes are not all new pipes. Your pipes are where you live in the retreat.
Right?
But once you hit the retreat property, thank you, John, you do have new pipes.
Yes,
To
we do.
distribute the water up to your homes in the retreat.
Okay.
But the rest of the system needs to be upgraded and maintained.
Okay? Now, the rest of the system, let's just say it runs from A, B, and C. We're B. A's gonna get good water, we're gonna get good water, and how about C? C's gonna get good water?
Everybody should get the same water
Okay,
quality.
then everybody should pay for this repair.
Well, they are. They
Just,
are.
no, just one district is. You said just District Two.
A, B, and C are in Water District Number 2.
Okay, well, excuse me, I'm a new member in this town.
Okay. All right.
Okay. All right, I guess I said enough.
Well, no,
You know what, and I just want to say something, like,
Yes.
there was a water, Kenny, up in Mayapop, but we just did a water, repair up there.
Yes.
So you got water main repair up there. The people in that district paid for it, you guys didn't. Okay, because they're in that district, you're in this district. So you didn't pay for their repairs. So you just paid for your repairs that are unique to your district. Carmel Water 2. So anytime you hear on town board Carmel Water 2, it has something to do with you. So you get involved, yeah.
I'm only in this town 6 years, and I can't get this hand out of my pocket.
Wait.
6 years I'm here, I cannot get this hand out of my pocket.
Yeah,
I don't understand.
yeah.
home from Pulte.
Yes. That was the biggest mistake of my life.
Okay, well, we'll leave that for a different discussion.
Yes.
I might agree with you on that. But when you bought the home from Pulte, I'm quite sure Pulte advertised it as town water, town sewer. Okay, and you're in an existing old district, which I'm quite sure wasn't in the brochure.
Between you and I,
So you're-
I'm living in a
your
nightmare,
frustration-
not an old district, a nightmare.
Your frustration and your anger, I feel for you, but it's directed, you know, we're trying to fix it. The people in the old pipes are trying to get it better. You were sold a bill of goods.
I wish they would have did it to me in the dark. I'd have felt better. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thanks for coming out.
Your money that you pay goes for capital, O&M, and use. Capital, O&M, and use. That's what you're paying in your water bill and your capital costs that you pay in your tax bill. So when you get your tax bill, you're gonna see Carmel Water 2 District Water 2. When you pay that, that's going for upkeep of the water district.
Okay.
And the capital, any capital projects, and the water is billed separate. Billed separately.
twice a year.
That's billed
Okay.
separately. All right?
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah,
You're
so-
welcome, thank you.
Mr. Mono?
Frank Muno, 5 Dickinson Place.
Say your address again, sir?
Frank Muno,
Susie.
5 Dickinson
Susie,
Place.
Can you turn that, no, you have to turn that chrome lever there. You have to turn that, and then you can lower it. The other way, sir. There you go.
I was gonna say, why don't, yeah, we can move here.
Do you have any lessons in how to adjust
Yeah, we
mics?
know what we're doing, just do this. You got it.
Wait a minute.
Go ahead.
Oh,
We all set, guys?
hold on.
The bond that, it was okayed, but it's not in progress right now. What's the term of the bond? What's the cost of the bond? And what's the cost to each individual that's connected to this District 2 water?
For the 2.3 million, which is Glen Ida Ridge, Glenview and 301 area, the cost of the project is 2.3 million. Now, that has not been bonded out yet. I said that before, it's gonna be bonded out once the project is done.
Right, but that's etched in stone right now.
Not
It's-
necessarily, I mean, if
Well,
the
you're not
costs
gonna
come in
change it,
lower
are
than
you?
2.3, then we would bond out the lower amount. But the 2.3, if we were to bond it out 15 years, it would be $88 annually for a taxpayer. If we were to bond it out 20 years, it would be $72 annually. And if we were to bond it out 30 years, it would be $56 annually for 30 years. So it depends on.
So why don't you have those figures on hand now? You're gonna bond it out for, what's gonna give you the final,
We would probably bond it out for 15 years.
Okay.
Because to bond that out 30 years, you're paying, too much interest. So we would probably bond that out for 15 years. But again, as I said earlier, if there's other projects that come up with these other coupons that we're going to be collecting, we could combine those projects and bond it out all together. We bond out projects in October, so if this project is done and the interest rates are low, then I will bond this out, probably for 15
right,
years.
but
I mean, it will
on
be
previous
something we'll
board
discuss.
meetings, you said that this bond would be solely for District 2,
It is District 2,
for Glenida Ridge area.
right.
Now you just said that you may bond out more if you have the money for other areas.
No,
Is
it
that
would all
correct?
be District 2.
Or
All
District 2.
within District 2. I'm saying
But
with the coupons.
in a
that we're
different
gonna be
area.
collecting.
In other words, the 2.3 million was for the Glenida Ridge area.
Well, it's for all of Water
You're not
District 2.
segregating the areas, it's the whole district.
It's the whole district that's going to pay for it,
The debt
The debt
is spread out amongst the entire
not
district.
just Glenida.
The whole district.
We understand the debt, but the 2.3 million was just for the Glenida Ridge area.
Right, but it's going to be paid for by the taxpayers
By the
of
total,
full-
total
the full
District 2, I
district.
understand that.
Right.
Okay, so now you just said that you would combine that bond with another area.
Because it's all paid for by the same taxpayers.
That doesn't matter. The 2.3 million is only for the Glenida Ridge
But it's
area.
paid for by all of the taxpayers.
We
Even
understand
if-
it's paid
even
for
if you live-
everybody, but you cannot use that bond to do work in another area.
It has to be in District 2.
Gotta be in-
It has to be in
Money
District
that's
2.
spent on
Okay.
2.3, any money that's spent in the future will all be in Water 2,
Water
Okay.
2.
okay?
We're not going to combine other
One
districts.
street
It's
here is
all,
done, or one street there is done, the entire bill is to be burdened by District 2.
Right, we
it would be,
understand
it
that.
would be considered a public improvement bond.
But in the beginning, you just said that the 2.3 will be just for the Glenida Ridge for so many thousands of feet.
Only for the repair of that area.
Correct. For the installation of the new main.
Right, but it would be paid by everybody.
We understand.
In 6 months from now, there's another repair that has to be done of $1 million or $2 million.
Right, you would float another bond to take care of that.
Correct.
Right,
Okay.
but it all comes under the same envelope of
Right.
Right.
Water 2.
Okay. Now, recently, you just awarded contracts for the Infomark. What was the amount of that contract, and for how many years was that posted for? And does any of that contract money going to be extracted from District 2?
Rich?
So I don't remember the contract amount, it's a 5-year contract term, and Carmel District, Water District 2, along with the 12 other or 13 other water districts, and the 8 sewer districts. Let me take that back. Infomark only does 3 water districts, I apologize. With the 3 water districts and 8 sewer districts, that is what that whole entire contract is for.
Right, so the people in those districts are going to
Share the cost.
either
Yes.
share the
Share the
cost
cost,
of that.
yeah.
Correct, that overall contract.
Now, also, you awarded a contract for the consulting engineer. What was the term of that contract, and what was the money on that contract, and does that be extracted from District 2 also?
The contract with the consulting engineer is me. It's a 4-year term. It's $120,000 a year. The part of that District 2 is paying for it is the design work and the construction oversight, separate and distinct from that contract for the work being done in the district.
Right, so what is the portion of the design contract gonna amount to?
Off the total contract for design and construction oversight is $186,000.
Right, so the District 2 people will have the burden to pay for that portion.
That's, yes, under the,
Repair that's being done now.
under the $2.3 million umbrella, okay, under the $2.3 million cost, that's part of the
Okay, so design,
$2.3
so
million.
when another contract comes in for another design in another area, then it'll be the same thing, I assume.
It'll be the same, it will be the same approach.
Right.
It won't be the same dollar
Not
value.
the
no.
same dollar amount, but still District 2 will be paying that portion of the design.
Yes.
When you replace the water mains, You're gonna extract the old mains out of the ground, the fire hydrants?
No, the hydrants will come out, the hydrants will get abandoned, the old main will get abandoned in the ground.
So it'll stay in the ground. So when you abandon the hydrants, where does that go? Does it go to a salvage yard, or what do we do with that metal?
The contractor's gonna dispose of it in accordance with, as part of construction and demolition debris.
All right, so there's no benefit for District 2 people to gain any money if they're gonna salvage it someplace?
No.
No?
Well, could I ask a question? I mean, that would be part of that contractor's, or should be, part of that contractor's bid process, the bid price, that either or the contractor's gonna receive metal in, get a proceed, and that would.
That would offset some portion of the
Should be, I
contract.
mean, I don't know, but conceptually, that would offset, and then.
Got it, got it.
So we don't know if
Or their
that's-
bid number.
No, I didn't put, there's nothing in there. The stuff that he's responsible for removing and disposing of, he's responsible
Right,
for
at his
removing and
own-
disposing
At his own
of.
accord or
Right.
whatever. All right, that's all I have to say. I appreciate your help.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cole?
Charlie?
He's up on Everett. Charlie's on Everett Road.
Yeah, Louis was right about my family. Used to own the water rights, and my ancestors to Lake Lenida. And you go out 301 on the West Branch side, there used to be a mill there. I don't know whether it's a sawmill or a grist mill, I'm not sure which. And I look at that now, and I say, how the hell could that water run from Lake Lenida into the reservoir when it's going the other way? But anyway, what I'm looking for is a plan. I haven't heard anyone come up with a plan here. You know, you're talking and explaining different things, but what's your long-range plan? I mentioned this maybe, a couple months ago at a meeting, that I wanted to see so that people would know, you know, like, we're going to be charged so much for this contract. Now, down the road, we could possibly have a couple more contracts, and, you know, just so people get an idea of what's going on, because this right now, there's not enough information getting back to the public. I mentioned to you guys before about communications, you know, and you weren't going to televise this before. That's part of your communications. There should be one member on the board in charge of communications. You should appoint somebody, be in charge, and get that information out to the public. I remember when we were working on the sewer district years ago, when I was working, I went to quite a few meetings on that and getting the information back. I mean, we even had a newsletter, and I worked on it and got it out to the community so that people knew what the hell was going on. Where right now, we're just, you know, just stumbling along in the dark here, really. But I think you could put something down. Put it on paper. Give us a piece of paper, you know, saying, oh, this is what we're planning to do, this and that and the other thing. And then so the town has an idea. Where now we don't have an idea. Right, Rich?
Well, we're getting the idea.
You're getting it.
So part of the impetus behind having this meeting, which was, you know, by Susie and by Kenny
Yeah.
and by the board,
Yeah.
was to start the formulation of this plan.
Yeah.
So they heard you
Yeah.
when you spoke.
Good.
Government moves at the speed of government.
Yeah, I know.
Unfortunately.
It's very
So
slow.
We are now having
Yeah.
this meeting to talk and to figure this out and to come up with a plan so that we're able to communicate. that
Yeah.
The board is able to communicate.
Yeah.
Talk to you as the residents and say, here's what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
But we can only do that when we know
Right.
what's going on, right, and what we're gonna do. So we're kinda giving you this piece. This was piece of the puzzle of the communication. And yes, we'll get things on paper as we move forward. I think Mr. Margolis mentioned that earlier.
Yeah.
He said, talk about having, keeping costs down. He said something about plans. Other folks have mentioned letting us know what's going on. We hear you,
Yeah.
and we will come up with that. That's the goal.
Is there any possibility of somebody looking into some type of grant from the state or from the federal government to help with this?
Yes,
answer is
yes,
yes.
and yes.
You have done that?
Yes.
Okay,
No,
good.
it will be done. If it hasn't
ongoing.
been done, which it hasn't, it's going to be done as we move forward. Again, we need to understand all the little tidbits that need to go on. There's a lot
Yeah.
going on.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a big water district. There's 52 miles of water lines here.
Yeah.
It's a big water district. So,
Now, we don't have to replace everything.
no, sir.
No, that's part of the investigation.
That's
Charlie.
why we
Right.
need to understand where we are.
Yeah.
So-
Right, okay. And looking at this list here, I didn't see anything on Kelly Ridge.
Well, that's why we wanted to hear from you.
Everett.
Everett.
Did Charlie, Everett falls into that. Everett has given us the repair that we did on Everett. It was after the last meeting down in Mahopac.
Yeah.
We had to put, there was a repair done on Everett that's more than indicative of the need. The
Yeah.
pipe is intact and it will work for lining or it could be replaced. Just depends on what happens up in the rest of that area.
Okay. I guess that's pretty much it, I don't know what else to say, but get some information out to us.
We'll put as much information as we can on our website. Do you go on our website at all?
No, you see, a lot of people don't see that all the time.
Right, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about, everyone's working. A lot of people got 2 jobs. They're never home, and they don't get a chance to sit down and look at the computer, and or the TV. You got to have a piece of paper. Get out to the people. What was very good? This water report that just came out with the water bill. You stuck it in the water bill, and so instead of having a separate mailing.
Yeah.
Something like that, go along those lines. But there is ways of doing it which keep the costs down. So just keep us informed.
I like the way you're thinking, Charlie. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Not Charlie, Mr. Cole. I like the way you're thinking.
Mr. Elner?
Hello, everybody, neighbors. I'm a resident of Water District 2, and I also happen to be an executive with an ultraviolet company. So I have a little bit of familiarity, and I want to direct most of my questions and comments towards the RFP for the water plant, in a particular new water plant, which I hope my friends and neighbors were all in agreement we do need. Do we have an estimate of what this RFP will cost?
No,
We have no idea.
could be 50,000, could be 100,000.
Okay, so between 50 and 100,000. Okay. John, I'm very glad that you mentioned the 10 state standards, which are a major guideline for everybody. And for disinfection, New York and the 10 states, they require that you have residual disinfection throughout your piping. So that means that we're always going to have chlorine in our house. Prior to injecting the chlorine, you can either use ultraviolet, you could use ozone, which never gets used because it's so energy intensive, it's never cost effective, or you could use a basis of your filtration as membranes. Using ultraviolet membranes reduces the amount of chlorine that is demanded, so you can save a little. But the real issue here is THMs, trihalomethanes. If they're present, and it's a carcinogen, when you add chlorine to these precursors, which we should know because we have many, many years of data of the water, both from New York City, Lake Oneida Citizens Committee, and the town, we should know if those precursors exist. If those precursors don't exist, then chlorine is no issue. If the precursors do exist, then the common form of treatment is peracetic acid along with the chlorine. So I think that we can get a very good gauge on this whole thing. I just like to know, and we're all shooting from the hip here, when do you expect the RFP results to be in? And how much further down the line do you think that'll be till we can get started on a plant?
I think Kenny said earlier when he read the agenda that the RFP delivery is due on May, what, 25th? Okay, so I expect that we'll have a screening and a selection of a consultant by the end of
Right,
June.
and that consultant will take 3 months, 6 months, 9 months?
There will be a seasonal evaluation of the raw water quality coming out of the lake.
Right, because,
You need
okay.
to speak up, John.
Sorry. We will have a 9-month period of water quality evaluation so that we know exactly what raw water quality we're drawing out of the lake in the summer and in as the months cool down and warm up, and then for the cold months. And then I think we got 90 days after that or something that they're due to
Okay.
deliver the final report.
Because I had spoken to Rich previously. Personally, I think we don't need a feasibility study because there's 3 basic forms. You're going to have a sediment filtration multimedia where we can either replace with diatomaceous earth, or we could go with sand, a combination thereof, or you can go with the membrane process. Temperature tends to affect more the membrane process than the other process, but we should know what our worst case of water is. And yes, we're going to have seasonal differences, but I believe that the strongest effect of seasonal is going to be a temperature variation. Basically, what I'm saying here is I think we're kicking the can down the road. I'm of the opinion that the sooner we get moving on this, there's financial benefits to doing such. 1, costs are going to go up in general. 2, interest rates, who knows if they're going to be here. So I think that we're really in a time is of the essence to get this plant in. And I hope that my neighbors, because we're the ones who are all going to pay for it, I hope that you agree. I can respect the conservative belt and suspenders approach that you guys want to take, but we should have done that 20 years ago before you were even here.
Well, we're not taking a belt and suspenders approach. We're taking the approach that's dictated by the 10 state standards and the New York State Department of Health. That's the approach that we're taking.
They require a
That's the-
feasibility study?
Yeah. It's the opening paragraph of the 10 state standards is the engineering report / facility plan. Okay.
And that
That's-
engineering
that's-
report that's a feasibility study because we have an existing operating water plant and we can't use the data which we've compiled
Tom,
over
what's the
years.
data that we collect on a routine basis?
I mean, no, we follow New York State standards.
No, but the raw water data that we collect, there's 3 or 4 parameters that we collect for, right?
Are you talking about electricity,
Yeah.
temperature?
I'm just asking the operator, what's the raw water quality
Yeah, no,
stuff?
we do, but that, I think,
It's limited.
I mean, I'm gonna just analysis, maybe I'll disagree with jumping into it quick. It's like cooking a chicken. There's 1,000 ways to cook it, okay? And John's hiring we're looking for a firm that's gonna look at all the data. I don't think it's a rush to judgment. In the scope of the longevity of how long the plant will serve the town going forward, I don't necessarily agree it's a black or white issue all the time. I think it's gonna be up for some discussion, some professional agreement. I think a lot of raw water analysis is critical in the thinking of the plant in the most efficient way, which you touched on a few different efficient ways of dealing with it. I'm interested to see what they say, because we all have our own opinion on what's the best way to go, but I do think that you need to drill down and analyze the data. And I think a lot of the firms that John's referring to, they've done multiple water plants, and you're in the industry as well,
Right, and-
so they kind of can draw from that.
But I think where we're differing is, I don't want to wait for them to take all their own data. I believe that the data is here, and that they can use the existing data and save a significant amount of time and do what both of you gentlemen are proposing. That's where I think that the difference is. We have enough historical data that a proper professional engineering scientific judgment can be made, and that's really what I'm saying.
We'll supply them all the data we have, it would be pretty.
And also, if they can use the existing data,
Well,
that
they will.
saves
They can-
us money.
I'm sure they will ask for every single thing that we do, and they'll have it all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
Okay, thanks, Greg.
Mr. Butler?
I swear to you, my brain is melting. It's, my brain is melted, it's a charcoal briquette. I can't even believe what's going on here. And I'm gonna ask a whole bunch of questions, and, you know, with all due respect. I'm sorry, you're the consulting engineer? Do you have a firm, or is it just you?
No.
So the 120,000 is for the firm? Okay, that just came up in my mind. Inframark, used to be Severn Trent. Ownership changes and that sort of thing. When was the, and again, I'm just asking questions. When was the last time an RFP was done for the O&M contractor? For 2?
Last year.
So there was an RFP, Inframark
There
won.
was an
It
RFQ.
was an RFQ that went out, 3 firms responded, we reviewed it, and Infomart was the firm that got it. So they were
Got it.
pressed for calls from professional firms.
That answers the question. So, as someone mentioned, I got the water quality report the other day with my bill. So, just a couple of quick technical questions, if you don't mind. For
Where do you
anybody.
live? Where do you live?
Oh, I live in the worst place in the world, Kelly Ridge Road.
Oh, okay.
Our water system is, Kabul makes it look, you know, good, all right? And that's for 34 years when I moved in there. I bought my house when I was only 16 years old. I'm still a very young
Nice.
guy.
Yeah,
You know,
you're
thank
doing
you.
well.
Yeah. Just a couple of things. Turbidity, because I'm looking at the report. I'm not a technician. I looked at the turbidity levels. It seems to me, it says 5. I'm looking at it. It seems to be the impression. Go ahead. It gives the impression that turbidity levels are to be acceptable are supposed to be equal to or less than 5 NTUs.
It's called, when you're reading the report, I believe what you're saying is a range.
Okay.
And generally, now, we actually have, I brought the chief operator for the water plant here, Amanda. She's got a science degree, she's a very bright young woman, she's actually the lead operator on a daily basis.
Okay. What does it mean? What does that mean, the turbidity level?
Oh, it's
Being
just
at
how
that
cloudy-
number?
How cloudy the water is.
Okay.
Because we're taking out a surface water system.
So the level detected is 5.0?
Yeah, I have to read the exact, yeah, oh, okay. It's right here. That's the report. Yeah, level detected,
If you ever have a glass of Sambuca and you put an ice in it, a piece of ice in it, and it gets cloudy, that would be considered turbidity.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out what's good and what's not good in terms of the levels.
right, I mean, the thing is, you can have, at a rain event, out of Lake Lenina, you can have a high turbidity coming into the water plant. So the water filters and the the system is working much more aggressively to remove the
Okay.
turbidity that's in the water.
But the level detected is 5.0. My question, for that sampling event, my question is whether that's acceptable, non-acceptable?
No, that's a pretty high level for the water coming in that day.
Okay, that day.
World water, yeah. It changes.
Was that the only sampling event?
We sent, well, that's the day we have health department standards, okay? We do annual testing, okay? So certain days, that was the data that was recorded. We're recording the data on a daily basis, 24 hours a day.
Okay, could there have been other days where it's higher?
No, because the number that's reported in there, I believe it correctly, is the highest
The
over the past 3
maximum.
years.
Okay, that's the highest.
That's basically the paperwork that you're holding in your hand.
Yes.
Is the detects, the quality detects, or
Yes.
max detect, like the maximum that we have.
Okay, so, again, I'm just, you know, I'm a working stiff. I don't know what this means. What is, I'm trying to understand whether the turbidity levels in our water system are acceptable, non-acceptable, or something.
Your general water quality is good. Somebody touched on the base, touched on this earlier, about the diet space for the plant, meeting all the standards.
Okay.
It's just a heavy labor-intensive water filter system.
Okay, one other quick question. One other quick question on the report. Total coliform? I don't know if that's the thing. So that was a detect, and coliform is bacteria, as I understand it. And then they did a subsequent test, and there was no detect. So how does you have one on one day and none on the
Well,
other?
basically what John mentioned earlier is we had chlorine to the water. Okay, your water is not sterilized, your water is disinfected.
Right.
Okay? Amanda, remind me, what's the total amount in monthly vacuum samples before and common with this from the two?
We use 6 samples a month.
test, which is, you know, a serious event. We've never had that experience here. It's not uncommon to have a failing back T sample. That's why we test for them, and that's why we have chlorine in the water to disinfect it.
Okay. Great. Another question. So as far as the Glenida Ridge replacement program, just I don't know if it's theoretically or factually, if the entire exercise in terms of assessing the condition of the pipes, et cetera, had been conducted 10 years ago, could it have been possible at that time to avoid replacement and do the original relining project?
Conceivable.
Okay,
Sure.
so,
Theoretically,
Sure.
yes.
okay.
The purpose, the question was, had it been assessed 10 years ago, could we have relined it rather than replaced it?
Yes.
The answer is yes.
Okay.
Okay, the pipe, quite frankly, the coupons that we've taken across the district, all of the pipe the pipe wall's really in pretty pristine shape.
Okay.
But very good.
I thought coupons until tonight were the thing I use at ShopRite,
Right.
so I'm learning as I go along. I don't, coupon's a piece of pipe, I guess, I take it.
In this instance, yes,
Yeah,
sir.
okay. So, am I getting this correct? Is part of the assessment as to what should, could, can be done in terms of putting the district in it where it should be, that you're expecting feedback or input from people that have bad water in the district?
Indeed.
Is that correct?
Yes.
How, I have had bad water where I live on the top of Kelly Ridge Road for 34 years. I've spent thousands of dollars on filters. I don't have any water pressure. I've spent thousands of dollars on pressure boosting systems. I've talked about this for 34 years. I pretty much gave up. It's sort of like you sort of get a little, just accept it and go on with the rest of your life. I'm wondering if I ever sell that house, what the people of that potential sellers would think about that. But having said all of that, the question I have is, what process, system, methodology is in place that people that have bad water, like me, and I suspect just about everyone on Kelly Ridge, Everett, St. Michael's Terrace, which is probably in 150 to 160 individual single-family homes. So they're sitting there, spending thousands of dollars on filters, et cetera, and so on and so forth. How do they know, hey, I should be reporting this to someone? Is it instinctive? Is it ESP? How do they know that? And the fact being that input is critical to the assessment of the system and going forward into getting where it should be. How do they know?
Well, partly is now this informational meeting to move that forward.
Really?
Partly.
Yeah, there's a couple of people on TV. There's like 20 people here, okay? So all my neighbors are going to watch this on TV.
I have no idea. I can't speak for your neighbors. So the mechanism is, if you see something, say something.
Well, okay, that's what's causing, honestly, my brain to melt.
Okay.
Because that is, with all due respect, that is specious. That is absolutely disingenuous to the nth degree. If you said, we need the input of the public to come to us, to the district, and say, my water is horrible, and you had a process to solicit that information, hey, in whatever fashion is appropriate, doesn't matter, reach out to these people and say, do you have problems with your water? If you do, could you please check this box or call this number or send an email or a text to these numbers and tell us about it? Otherwise, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You're sitting here telling me that the expectation is to get this input from people that don't even know that request for that information is out there. Seriously? I mean, seriously. I don't want to talk anymore.
It's going to be on TV right now. That's what this is all about right now.
Who's watching this? Who's going to watch this?
Word of mouth. So you tell your neighbor.
Word of mouth. So we're supposed to now go up and down the street and say, hey, watch TV, so you can tell them that your water stinks.
I also want to explain something. One of the reasons why the town board decided to have this meeting is, you notice, we have all the players in the room right now. all of the players, no.
No, you
up
don't.
here.
You don't have
No,
stakeholders
no.
here, because the
We
stakeholders are
can't
the
make people
ratepayers.
come to meetings.
No, they don't, you know
Okay?
where I found out
We-
about this meeting? As I was
everyone-
driving to the ShopRite and saw the sign
Mr. Butler,
in
hold
front of
on.
the fire department.
Every single person's here. We had the comptroller, we had the highway superintendent, we have the engineers, we have the sewer, the water guy, okay, and the town board. We are here to listen to problems. It's a process where we're trying.
There's no
anything
process. The
we
water
can.
is horrible. It's been
Yeah,
horrible
we
for
agree to
decades,
disagree.
and there's no, quite frankly, in a very realistic sense, as I think Mr. Cole said, there's no plan, there's no strategy. We're having a meeting, and we want to hear from people that have bad water, and the stakeholders are not here. Okay, they're not, they haven't been reached out to.
Because
It's
we
very
have-
nice that you're all here, but you're not the important part of this ratio, this
started-
formula.
Let me tell you something. A lot of people came with brown water, okay? Now, I disagree with you. Right now, people on Monday, if I'm not mistaken, John, you said Monday, you've, replaced some
Over
of
there,
the-
starting Monday. Monday
starting
coming,
Monday.
we'll start
They're
replacing
gonna
it.
start getting the clean water. So we have moved forward.
Okay,
You know, so-
but
so
what
that's
I'm focused in on is
okay.
the input from the public.
We
And the
would love to
public
hear
is not aware that there's anyone listening,
But
okay?
we've been listening.
No, you
all the
haven't,
time.
because
No,
unless you,
I didn't. That's okay.
I've lived 3 decades with bad water. Everyone in the Kelly Ridge area has. Everyone. And if,
If we weren't listening, we wouldn't have this meeting.
Susan,
years, I've been going to
take it
town
and
board
go.
meetings and
Okay, let 'em
talking
vent,
about
okay? Sit down and go away.
For years, I've been going to board meetings.
So why aren't your neighbors here? If that's the complaint, why aren't they
All right.
here for 30
Mr.
minutes?
Butler,
How's your water? Good?
Yeah.
Excellent.
So if yours is not, then tell your neighbors to come. Stop complaining about everybody else and tell your neighbors to come.
Mr. Butler,
Yes,
your points are right on.
yes.
And I watched you come to board meetings for years and stood right next to you, so I know you have them, all right? You have some valid points,
Yes,
a lot of them,
yes,
okay? There should be a questionnaire that goes out with the bill,
yes.
that everybody,
At the very least,
at the very least.
right. The vehicle is immediately available.
Very simple Simon questionnaire that goes out with the bill,
Perhaps a questionnaire on the website.
but
You might want to pick that up before he kills himself.
everybody knows my feelings and how the process is going up here, but we're trying.
I get it. I'm very impatient.
Well,
Trying is nice, doing is much better.
I don't blame you, but questionnaire should go out with the bill.
Right.
And they should be more direct instead of an informational hearing, but we are here.
I get it. All I'm saying, I apologize for being like crazy, crazy person, but all I'm saying is, if a critical part of this process is getting input from the ratepayers, the customers, the residents, as to the condition, quality of their water, you need to reach out to them and simply say, hey, we, Carmel District Number 2, the town board, all the people here, need to hear from you guys. If you assume or presume that someone's out there, the vast majority of people are out there thinking, I think someone's whispering in my ear, I have to call someone about my water, it's never going to happen. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
It's a very practical, sort of approach. That's it. Thanks a million. I appreciate it.
Thanks, John.
Mr. Pizzo?
That's me.
Yes, sir.
Since you're talking about the water, I should have, you should have come over and evaluate Cassie Court and Baxter and Cortland. Because between the drain system, people have a septic tank, they swim
Oh, no.
on water.
Mr. Pezza, you don't live in a water district, correct?
He lives in
No,
Ward 6 if he lives in.
no. I got the proof right there in the back.
You're right.
No, on Baxter Court?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I live on Cassie Court.
Cassie Court?
Yeah.
You have well water.
Yes, we got the worst water, got to prove there, 5 years old, the
well?
pipe, yes. We got the hottest water in town.
Okay.
Because the drain system is no good. You wanna see it?
No.
Repair the roads,
We all know
drainage
Manpack
system
has
sucks.
hard water.
Yeah.
And we're really here for Carmel's too.
That's BS.
Oh,
All right? That's what we get. 5 years old this? Come on, it's supposed to be 20 years. It's because the drain system is no good, Mike Sloan. You created this,
the stormwater,
huh?
the stormwater system? No.
The well water. So you're gonna have to do something about it. When there's sewer, it will need well water. I mean, it could be a community well, a tank. This thing was questioned when Frank Del Campo was there. He's supposed to do it when they did, what do you call over there? The school over there, Fulmer. They put the pipe when they did the pathway over there. And I told them, when they didn't talk, they might put the sewer system in. Put a station. They got the lowest part over there on Mud Pond Road. Pump the system in.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Mr. President.
All right?
Thank you. Thank you.
So anybody who has not asked a question and who would like to ask a question, I'm gonna go row by row, so, no, I think no one in the back. Councilman Burley would like to speak. Anybody? No? I got you. This lady.
No, the one in the red, right?
Okay, come on up.
Oh, wait.
Sorry, we'll get you all up. We'll have everybody, you also.
Do you want to sit down? No.
No, I just wanted to ask a question about the meters that you're going to put in. I got a letter.
Yes, ma'am.
And I was wondering if all the pipes are going to be redone, is this going to stir up a lot of stuff and our new meters are going to get all clogged up? That was all I wanted to know. Otherwise, I mean, why are you putting in new meters just before you're doing a lot of work on the pipes?
So the answer is the meters, there was another project that was there first, so that was
Okay.
out for bid, and the pipe came in afterwards. The meters should be able to handle any of that dirt that comes through, but there shouldn't be dirt once we do the pipe, so it's kind of a chicken and an egg. I'm not really giving you an answer.
Why don't you put off the meters till the pipes are fixed, is what I'm
Because
saying.
the pipes is gonna be a longer term project, the meters will be done in about 6 months.
Oh. Is that going to be charged also on the Carmel Water District too?
Yes,
The
ma'am.
meters?
Well,
All the
yes,
districts.
but all the water districts are getting meters, not just Carmel Water District 2.
Do you have a cost on that you estimate yet? Because there was no cost in that.
Rich, just real quickly explain what these meters, why we're changing the meters out. Explain to them why we're doing this.
Marion, what's the cost though?
It's about
4.3.
Right, so, but how much per resident do we know? It's gonna be different.
I don't
So,
remember on the top of my head.
so it's, the overall project for the meters is $4 million over the 13 water districts that we have. Each individual district has certain debt load associated with it, which will drive the cost of what each resident's gonna have, because if there's no debt, we'll be able to pay off the existing funds. So we don't know that hard number just yet, though it is in the map planning report. I forget what it is off the top of my head. To answer Supervisor Smith's question, the reason why we're changing out the meters is to go from the meter read system that we have right now, where we send you a card twice a year, you have to go read the meter, and then you send us back info. What's happening is about 50% of the people don't send their cards back, and we give them estimates. So part of it is to make sure that we're accounting for the use and being able to bill for it, and hopefully getting the revenue for it. And that is the main reason why. It's a newer system. It's going to be a cellular-based system where you don't have to go and read the meters any longer.
How did they get read?
It's gonna be like a cellular phone. It's gonna send a text out at 2 in the morning through cell towers, and then it's gonna be stored in a cloud-based computer, and we'll be able to look at it on our computers at the office for billing. And if you were so inclined, you can look at it on your phone, your computer at home, or a laptop, or whatever, an iPad or a
But you
tablet.
don't think it's a good idea to put it off until more work is, until the pipes are...
The meters will be fine. The meters
Yeah.
will be able to survive that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So ma'am, you were up.
So my name is Alice, and I live on Gonida Ridge. So my question is, if I still have brown water, it's because you didn't come and replace our road yet? Because it's still brown.
Right, no, there's been, all we've made so far is new pipe. None of the services, all of the services are still on the old main. So procedurally, we install pipe, right, you see the blue pipe going in the ground.
I see it, yes.
So we install that, then it has to be pressure tested, and has to pass a certain pressure rating for a day. Then subsequent to the pressure testing, it gets disinfected, and there's 24-hour apart, 2 bacteriological tests that are then run and analyzed in a lab to make sure that the pipe is properly disinfected. Then all of that information goes to the health department. The health department blesses the newly installed main for service, then service connections using the corporation stops and the curb stops that Lou was talking
So it
about
could
earlier.
be like months before we...
No. Monday, we will start service connections on, where are you at? Where's your house?
You didn't do our road. I'm
Okay,
at
we're not
the-
on your,
Right.
okay, so we will start service connections on Monday with a dedicated crew coming up Glenida Ridge towards Glenview, then continuing behind the crew, the pipeline main installation crew on Glenview down to 301.
Right.
Okay, once that's concluded, then the main crew will show up at Glenida Ridge and Glenview intersection
That's
and
all
come
right.
around and work on your side of the block.
So it'll be
So
a couple
it-
weeks before...
It will be a couple more weeks, I think, before we get to your road.
Okay. So the other question is for people that I know on Everett that have brown water, they should be calling you and telling you this? You know,
But you got,
We're
we
aware of the
we know
Oh,
the
you
whole
do?
crew, yes.
So it's on our
Okay,
list of...
I'm just
So
asking.
yes, they can call when they have issues, and we can try to help
Please do,
address them.
yes, tell them to.
Okay, thank you.
Come on up, sorry.
Hi, I'm Patty Vetterman. I live on Ridge Court. I just wanted to find out a timetable for Ridge Court, and maybe along the lines of communication when you do future projects, to let the people in the neighborhood know a time frame of, like, some people in my neighborhood didn't even have a clue what the flags were about. So I've been trying to inform people, but they had no clue, why are there flags in front of my house? So if you can, like, let the people know in the neighborhood that when you're starting a project, you know, what's going on, and then a timetable for when our roads will be dug up.
So I have it on good authority that the Ridge, that you're on Ridge, off of Glenida Ridge, right?
Yes.
That's the dead end.
Ridge Court. Mhm.
I have it on good authority that that main is already PVC. It's not iron. So there will be a new connection once we come past on Glenida Ridge Road, once we get past that intersection, and have that main tested and approved for connection, then we'll make a reconnection of that new main to your PVC main and drain that line.
So is that
We'll
why we're
drain it.
getting
So we're not-
groundwater there? And
Yeah.
because of all the bad?
Yeah. Okay, and so we're not
So
gonna
we
dig, we won't dig.
won't even be dug up down in the
We
circle,
won't dig
just at
your
the
road.
top?
We may end up having to dig down the bottom, and certainly there will be some work in the intersection to make the new connection. Okay. But we won't be digging, right, we
Okay,
won't be
'cause
digging your road.
My one neighbor, her daughter's getting married June 29th, and she's a nervous wreck that everything's gonna be dug up on the road.
So June 29th?
Yeah. And she's a nervous wreck. She said they're gonna have, you know, one of those things flying over, taking pictures and everything else, So she's a wreck. So she's straight down the pretty house and drive right down the road, so.
We'll look for the tent over there.
Yeah. Okay, so
We'll make
you-
sure
so
we have
may be-
things tidied up.
Okay,
Okay,
great.
and-
Thank you. Thank you. All right, thank you very much.
So is there anybody else who has not spoken already who would like to speak? Anybody in the back? Well, there seems to be no one else, Councilman McDowell, Councilwoman McDowell, sorry.
All right, yeah, so, I mean, I just
Thank you.
want to, yeah, the board would like to thank everybody for coming. We got some good suggestions, you know, notifying the residents, Kenny.
Yes.
You know, possibly putting in a questionnaire.
We have no new information on where to
with
dig.
the with the water bill, so we don't have to spend more money on
They
it.
just went out.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
They just went out, right?
and thank you for taking your evening to come out here, and again,
Thank you for the
always
feedback.
contact us if you need.
Thank you, everyone.
John, going from the street to the house, to your house, you know, to the shut off in the middle of the yard, you're not digging the yard of the household, right?
It's gonna, that's gonna depend on whether, so here's how we're gonna do this. I'm gonna pull 2 complete services next week when I put the service crew on. I believe that most of that copper is in really, really good shape. Okay? But we've identified, through Amanda's good graces, non-working curb stands. So in your front yard, if it says NG next to your curb stand, that curb stand's coming out.
I only asked that because I
Okay.
have a dog fence, the electric, you know, in the ground. So
What's your
at
address?
that point, I should put like a
What's your address?
145. I don't care if you cut it. Yeah,
I do. 145 which?
Glen Ivy.
Okay.
You don't like your dog?
No. I'm just saying, I'd rather you cut it than hook onto it, you know, rip it out. Just cut it, peel it back, I'll connect it all. But I was gonna put a sign there.
Please do, okay? I've got a note, and I will pass this information on tomorrow, but put a sign on it anyhow, okay? Yeah. Just a warning. Thank you. Thank you.